Peace and love, peace and love. Welcome back, welcome back. My apologies for being away so long. I got things I'm trying to take care of and change my life, change my ways. When you wake up in this matrix, you wake up and realize you neck deep in this matrix. You've been going along with the system, even when you think you, for me, thinking I'm doing things my own way, I'm doing exactly what the system wants me to do. I'm being exactly the way the system wants me to be. So I've been in the process of changing a whole lot of that. And first off, I want to thank all my supporters, everybody that has subscribed to my channel, uh, all the people that show me love and encouragement, waiting on me to speak again when I see you out. I just want to say thank you. It's much appreciated. It's much needed, especially in these times right now, because things, our society looks bleak. It looks real bleak. So all the positive energy I get from everybody, it's much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. First off, I want to address the troll from my last video that was in the comment section of my last video defending those cops that shot Sonya Massey. He says that I skipped over the only relevant part of the video and that I seem to think it's irrelevant what really happened. Well, let's talk about that for a second. For him, the only relevant part of the video is when she stands back up after ducking down after behind the counter and picks up the pot of water. So her following their instructions to get the pot of water, that's irrelevant to him. Them drawing their guns while the pot of water was still sitting on the counter, just because she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," that's irrelevant to him. Not using any de-escalation methods, not using any non-lethal weapons, that's irrelevant to him. They had every right to automatically pull out their guns at this unarmed woman, even after she had her hands up, and advance on her. All that's irrelevant to him. And the whole reason I did the video was to show that it's a lot of people out there that can look at that and pick it apart, just like they did with the Rodney King video. When those cops were beating on him, he's on the ground, and every time he moved his leg, they stopped it frame by frame. Oh, look, he's trying to kick him. Oh, look, he's trying to swing on him. While they were beating him with sticks and kicking him. That's exactly what this guy did here. All the stuff that happened prior to that doesn't really matter to him. The fact that they were advancing on her with their weapons drawn and in her frightened state reacted the way she did, that's irrelevant to him. And I just want to say, people like that are dangerous to be around. I'll say that. Somebody that can see that and think it's okay that that's the way it happened, that's not somebody I want to put myself around. I'll say that part. That's somebody that is, that mindset is what I think is wrong with our society. That automatically, boom, just shoot the person. Just kill them dead. Even though all she said was, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." And that automatically had them in such a frightened state that they had to pull out their guns after she'd been following their instructions this whole time. I don't know. It just don't really sit right with me. And for a lot of people I talked to, they didn't even want to watch the video. They saw enough to know that situation wasn't right. She didn't have to end. Her life didn't have to end that way. So, and I really think this guy didn't really pay attention to what I was saying, because I addressed that. Even if you got all these non-lethal weapons, all this training you're supposed to have to de-escalate the situation, and even the one cop that, you know, she can't throw the water but so far, so he's backing away as she's doing that. But I really think he just wanted some attention, and we ain't gonna spend too much time on him. I really just wanted y'all to see that these people are out here like that can see something like that and think it's okay. So enough of that though. We're gonna move right on to what I want to get into today. Now, last time I was talking about the simulation, I was saying our world is projected, and I understand it a lot better now. This biblical picture of the earth created by, I forget the guy's name. He's a Mormon though. He took it from verses in the Bible that describes the earth. And here in the small print down here, y'all can look at it yourselves and blow it up. He he puts a lot of these verses, and where you'll find them in this small print. So I've been looking at this for years, and for the life of me, I could not figure out why he drew this formation coming out of the center of the earth like this. And I get it now. He's really showing you that we are in a projection, that the earth is being projected. You got the sun here, and you got Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu, talking about the eclipse from before. One of these objects, and I want to say is this one, in his depiction of it, this one is the one that would be unseen by our eyes in the sky. And this would be the moon that we see every night. And he's showing that our world is projected. The point being that the Bible is not a history book. It's more explaining the technology of this place and people that used it in different ways. So, and this is what I mean. If I can go to this, show you the Taurus field, I think you'll get what I'm saying. I wanted to show you this. This is the Taurus field around us. And you see that Jesus fish in the middle and how everything flows around it. That's what he's depicting. That's what he's showing in his depiction. This is where we get the Jesus fish from. This flow of energy. And we'll go more into that in a moment. First, I want to show you, I want to talk about where Christianity comes from. Now, I always wondered why we say amen in church. Where does that come from? In school, you learn about Amen Ra, and the words are right there in front of you. So when I was doing research back in high school, it led me to this, Ptolemy Soter. And before I get to him, let me back up a little bit and talk about this great library that was in Alexandria. Now, this library was the epicenter for all knowledge. They do this a little bit in the Book of Eli. If you ever watched that movie with, I believe, Denzel Washington, he's traveling to get to this place, and the place is a library, and they're starting all the knowledge over again, and he gets there to relay the Bible to him, the Bible to these people. So this great library in Alexandria supposedly held all the knowledge of the math and history and religion of this place. Different languages, a lot of information just in general. A lot of information. And people from around the world would come in, put knowledge in, and take knowledge out of the library. And this is where you get the whole start of religion starting in Africa, because this was the epicenter where all these religious books first came from. Taking knowledge from spiritual books, or books of spirituality that had been written prior to this. And they come up with these different religions to teach the people of their land. That's why everybody has all these different lands. They have deities that look like them. And the Greeks were no different. They took knowledge out of this and they came up with their version of what we now call the Bible. In school, they teach you that the Holy Roman Empire, it had expanded so far and so vast that it just sort of dissipated. It just sort of fell apart. That's not true. What happened was they found a new way to control the people. Instead of having a gun or a sword held to somebody's head to get them to do what you want, they came up with religion. And in that sense, the people will control each other. You won't need to control them anymore because they'll follow this book and do it for you. They'll keep each other in check using this book, using this religion. Now, the difference between spirituality and religion is simply this. Spirituality is a sense of self and understanding the world around you, moving in a positive manner, loving the world and all the people around you. Religion is a book giving you rules to follow, or else. And we'll get into that a little bit more. I'll pull up should have pulled this up earlier, the 42 Laws of Ma'at and the 10 Commandments. But first, let me go ahead and explain a little bit about where religion comes from, where the religion we have today comes from. Now, like I said, this library in Alexandria, this great library in Alexandria, it was destroyed by Alexander the Greek. And when they did this and invaded Egypt, which, once again, I gotta explain to you, these wars, these invasions, even the ones we have today, they're not exactly what you think they are. These places, these different countries, these different companies today, they're, on one instance, it looks like they're fighting against each other, and in another area, they're all working together. Say like with the UN, where they all sit down and make all these rules about how they're going to control the people for the next however many years. So when Egypt was invaded and the great library in Alexandria was destroyed, Alexander the Greek put his homeboy, one of his good buddies, Ptolemy Soter, in charge of Egypt. And what he did was, I'm not sure who the people were worshiping in the religious form before him. What he did, though, was he changed the person they call God or Lord or whatever to him. And they built a statue. And the statue was called Serapis. and it was made in his image, Ptolemy Soter's image, except they call this statue Serapis. Now, this is the first Ptolemaic king of Egypt, Ptolemy Soter. This is him. He would have been a pharaoh, not a king, a pharaoh. And the thing about it is, you see the cup on his head? See this cup sitting on his head? And in the Bible where it says, my cup runneth over, this is the cup they talking about. This cup on top of his head. Now this cup represents your crown chakra. And all the energy of yourself flowing out, operating in this crown chakra, and all that energy flowing out, creating a torus field around you. Jesus had a crown of thorns on his head. Let me show you Serapis. See this is another depiction of Serapis. And he's got the cup on his head, and you see the little thorns coming out. Once again, these thorns represent your crown chakra. They represent the torus field around your body, the energy flowing around your body. That's why you have these pictures where it looks like they tell you it's a halo. This is the energy of the crown chakra around their heads. That's what they're doing. So the Holy Roman Empire had expanded so far, and all these people had different versions of what we call the Bible. The Greeks had their version, the Egyptians had their version, all the other places they had their own version, and they had different people that they would have been calling the Son of God. So when Ptolemy Soter was being worshipped by the people, they were calling Serapis the Son of God. Now, when they invaded Egypt, all the people that would not convert over and call Serapis their new god, they were considered anarchists. And an anarchist back then is someone who went against the church, and the church would have been the government. The government was the church back then. They made all the rules. They held the people in check through religion, through this religious doctrine that each society had adopted. This is why the Bible is such a good book. In the book of Eli, what the guy he said, if I had that book and I used it the right way, he could control all the people. And that's basically what they did with religion back then. They used it to control the people. You didn't have a bunch of jails and law enforcement. Now, you did have soldiers, and you had people that protected the king and upheld the law of the church, and they were usually members of the church, bishops and priests. A lot of the top ranking they'd be bishops and priests, and they would have people that underlings that help them uphold this law. Now, it came a point during Emperor Constantine's time where it was decided that they wanted to put everybody under one umbrella, because at that time there was no J, so you had Jesus being spelled with an I in Greek society. So what he wanted to do was have everybody calling him Jesus. Or I'm not sure how you pronounce it with the I. It's like, because the I sounded sort of like a J, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, they wanted everybody to be calling him Jesus, not Serapis anymore. Now, to do that, they came up Constantine made a decree and started the Council of Nicaea. And in this council, what they did was change the name of what everybody was. They had a bunch of bishops, Christian bishops. Now, if you know about religion, bishops are Catholic. In Christianity we have today, we have reverends and we have not priests, but pastors. Excuse me. We have reverends and we have pastors. Now I got a video on my page in the religious deception playlist of Dr. Ray Hagan going into explaining the Council of Nicaea and what they were doing. And I use this video because back then I had never heard of Dr. Ray Hagan. And the way he speaks about it is the way I understood it back then. When I read the Council of Nicaea, when I read through all this stuff. And what I want to show you about the Council of Nicaea is really the Nicene Creed. I forget where I put that at. It's up here somewhere. Don't worry, we're gonna get to the Olmec and the Dogon tribe. And the Pope hat and all of that stuff too. Maybe not today, but we'll get to it. I cannot find it right now. Pope, pygmy. Oh man, this sucks. Because I just pulled it up. Well, I'm gonna have to look it up again. I'm gonna have to pull it up again because I can't find it right now. I don't think I covered it up. In this council, one thing they did was they wanted to reiterate that Jesus was begotten and not made. Maybe I can just pull it up here. Now, this council was in 325 AD when they decided that Jesus was going to be the name of God's son for everybody. And just like they did with Ptolemy Soter, those that did not want to worship Serapis, they put him on the cross. They were called anarchists. So in the Bible, the two thieves on the sides of Jesus, they wouldn't have been there. That's not what they did with these. The reason they put them on the cross is for everybody to see what happens when you go against the church, when you go against the government. When you say that what they're saying is not right. You see what I mean? They hadn't really committed a crime. Except it was a crime back then to them, and all of this was punishable by death. And how do they do it? They put you on the cross. So to convert the people over to Serapis, the ones that didn't, they put them on the cross. Now, before they did all that, well, let me back up again. During the Council of Nicaea, you had a guy named Arius of Alexandria. He was a bishop. And Arius was saying that Jesus was not the Son of God because they had been worshiping Serapis. He was also saying he remembers a time when Serapis wasn't the person that they worshiped. There was another person. So Arius was a well-known and well-liked bishop in Egypt. He was a black dude. And the people, he had a lot of support for what he was saying. A lot of people was on his side. A lot of people were listening to his message. So what they had to do was discredit Arius. And eventually they pinned a charge on him. I think it was murder or something, even though he had an alibi for where he was. The crime he was accused of, I want to say it was murder. It's been a while since I read these books, but the thing was, they couldn't kill him. And back then, you didn't have jails. So what they did was they banished Arius. They banished him to go live off on his own. Now, if he came back to the city, then they would kill him. So they banished him. And in his banishment, he still had a lot of supporters. Because here's the thing. Once again, with Jesus, they wanted converting the people over to Jesus. They wanted to put these people to death that didn't want to convert. And how were they going to do it? Putting them on a cross. And Arius wouldn't stand for it. He was all against it. And even at this first council in Nicaea, all the other bishops that supposedly had Arius's back, they were given titles and land if they went against Arius. So a lot of the guys that were supposed to be on Arius's side during this whole council turned their back on him and sided with Emperor Constantine. He only had a couple of them that still was rocking with him. So when they banished him, which he stayed in banishment for 11 years. During that time, there were people that came to visit him, help him out, give him supplies or food or whatever he needs, because you're out there living on your own now. You're not in the city. It was a crime just to even go see somebody that was in banishment. Now, if you were traveling and you stumbled across him by accident, it wasn't so bad. But intentionally going to see this guy, so a lot of people would sneak out and go converse and see how Arius was doing. Now, he was in banishment for 11 years, and then suddenly he got sick and he died. It's a story that repeats throughout history. Like, these people, a lot of fame, a lot of support, and then dirt gets thrown on their name, and after a while, the people sort of forget about them, and they end up dying somehow. Same thing with Arius here. That's what happened. And they couldn't put people to death while Arius was alive, while the people had his support. Once they got him out of the city, and people forgot about him, and he eventually died of some illness, then they could go on with their plans of converting the people over to Jesus. And the Council of Nicaea was not the only council they had. This is the first one where they actually came to the name of Jesus instead of Serapis. And after that, they still had more councils because they slowly changed things in the Bible, the way things were worded. This is why there's so many versions of the Bible. This is why in today's society, we just accept the King James Version is the common version for everybody to use. And just like back then, even today, they are constantly changing the wording of the Bible. Now, I've said this for years. If they can change the words in the Bible, then how was it really the words of God? If you can sit there and decide what words you want to use next and what version you want to use, how was it really the word of God? Because my thing was, like, I wanted to know what the original version was. And the original version is written in a dead language nobody speaks anymore. And there's probably some people who still can speak that language, or at least have the books from that language in some library somewhere. Because when they destroyed the library, I don't believe they destroyed all that knowledge. I think that knowledge was taken out of that library that they wanted to keep, and it's hidden. They talk about this now with a lot of stuff in the Vatican, in the catacombs, in the basement of the Vatican, where they got a lot of old books. And some of these other societies, they got a lot of old books, a lot of old scrolls or whatnot, and it contains information from thousands of years ago. So even before you get to the story of the Bible, and this is where you have people that talk about how the Bible is really written based on Egyptian mythology. There was a story I read of Horus, Ra, and Isis. And it would basically be like the beginning of where a lot of the scriptures in the Bible come from. Now, Horus was the son of Isis and Ra. And most people think of them as Ra being the man, Amun-Ra being the man, and Isis being the woman. Well, there were a couple books, one in particular that I read, that had the woman, his mother, as Ra, and had the man as Isis. And it seemed strange to me at first. Like, why would you do that? Like, I didn't get why they were doing that at first. Once you understand that these are not names, they're titles. Just like Christ. Christ is a title. The devil is a title. It's not a name. So, Horus, well, let me back up. Horus's father was a great architect in the city. And at the time when Horus was young, he was considered the greatest architect in the city. He had built monumental structures, advanced technology for their time as far as plumbing, irrigation, architecture. And his mother was, you would call her something like a councilwoman. See, back then, women would have been the politicians. It's like a man and a woman living in a house, raising a family. If the woman is always at home, taking care of the children, and she knows what the house needs. The man is away providing and protecting, making sure they're straight. Their living conditions are good. They don't need anything. They don't want for anything. So this is the basic principle of what women's role in society was back then. The city was broken up into districts, and each district had some woman from that district, and they would all get together and meet. I think it was once a month they would meet and discuss the things the city needed. There was no leader. There was nobody in charge. Now, Horus's mother would have been considered to be the leader because she was the most respected out of all of them. Because Horace's mother went to every district to actually see for herself what the people needed. And if there was something urgent that needed to be done, she would make sure it got done right then and they didn't have to wait until the council meeting. So a lot of people respected her. A lot of the women, they went for her for advice when things came under discussion. They looked towards her to see what she had to say about the issue or about the matter. Now, at the age of 16, Horace took up his father's work. Horace's father was an architect. He built things. What was Jesus' father? He was a carpenter, right? So at the age of 16, he took up his father's work. And by the age of 21, 22, he had surpassed the accomplishments of his father as far as being an architect. And he was his father was called the greatest architect of the city. And Horace was called eventually the greatest architect of the universe. Now, when you become a 33rd degree Mason, I've seen this form before from people that posted their pictures of the Masonic order. They become 33rd degree Masons. Young Thug had some pictures on the internet about that. And what they call them is the greatest architect of the universe. Now, when you take the first letter of each word, you get TGAOTU. Now, if you take the first T off and you take the last letter of the last word off, universe, you end up with GOAT. And this, once again, it ties all in with the Baphomet and the GOAT worship and all that other stuff. If we'll get into that. If you don't know about it, we'll eventually get into that. I want to talk about the origins of the Bible today, because you got to understand that this is all part of a Masonic order. This whole thing, like even Jesus, I see now that Jesus would have been a Mason. You see what I'm saying? Like, he wasn't a real character. It's sort of like Kris Kringle. Kris Kringle wasn't a real character. It was the personification of like 2 or 3 guys in this small town in Germany, in this city in Germany, years ago, that went around doing good deeds for the orphans of the city. They made sure they had toys, a place to play, and all this other stuff. And that story ended up becoming Santa Claus. So Jesus, the story of Jesus is sort of the same thing. It's the personification of one or more people that went around using certain technologies to do things like walking on water. They say walk on water. They don't tell you how he walked on water, just that he walked on water. We take it upon ourselves and say, oh, it was the power of God. But what the Bible is really pertaining to, is really telling you about, is the technology and the lifestyle of the time. Hence the people going on top of the mountain and going to heaven, or taking these trips to heaven, and then they come back with somebody else. I see it more as interdimensional travel, which is a real thing. We do that. It's a real thing. There are CIA documents where they talk about such things, and which have been recently released. I'm not pulling them up. I didn't think I was gonna go there with that, but like, if you get a chance, if you want to look, a lot of CIA documents have been released about like MK Ultra, what is it? The bug copter. I forget the exact name of it, but what they had was a mosquito copter, I think. Something like that. It was bugs. They were using actual small technology with cameras and audio recording devices on them. Bugs. We call them bugs today. But these were actually devices that they made to look like bugs. It's in the CIA documents. I'm gonna pull that up at one point. We're not gonna do that today. I want to stick on this Bible and where it comes from. Now, with Horus, like I said, he eventually became known as the greatest architect in the universe. Now, what I read about him, they go on and on about his advancements in agriculture and the sewer system or plumbing, because Egypt had indoor plumbing. They had toilets. And to do all this, you got to have electricity. They tell us that there was no electricity back then. It was invented by, was it Edison, I think, made the light bulb. They had light bulbs back then. You see what I'm saying? And I'm gonna pull that up. I'm gonna pull that up at some point. I'm not gonna do it right now, but we're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to it. Matter of fact, see if I can pull that up now. Light bulbs. Light bulbs on the Egyptian. See if I can find it right here. Yeah, there we go. See, in school, we were told that this was a depiction of the lotus flower. At least in my school, that's what we got told. And the teacher, I remember the teacher saying, I know it looks like a light bulb. They didn't have electricity. They had, this is the depiction of the lotus flower. This is Egypt's depiction. And what it was this right here. Now this is really a Crookes tube. Show you what a Crookes tube is. This is a Crookes tube. Now with a Crookes tube, you can make lasers or holograms. See, it's the same thing. It's the same type of device. So Egypt had electricity. Now with Horus, they go on and on about the architectural structures he made, except they never name any of them. They never tell you what it is, what type of building it was. I think that they were talking about the pyramids. I'm not sure though. I'm not 100%, but my research leads me to think that they were talking about the pyramids. So over time, Horus is worshipped. The people love Horus so much for everything that he did, you know, that over time he started being worshipped as a god, little g. See, back then, lords and pharaohs were called lords and gods. Landlord, god of the land, land god, that type of thing. So they bought him gifts, they bought him food, they bought him precious stones, like we wear nowadays sometimes. If you're into the crystals, stones or crystals, that's what people call them. They don't call them rocks. If you wearing them and you learn about them, people usually call them stones or crystals. And that's what some of the stuff they would bring Horus. They bring him the finest cuts of meat or the best livestock that they had, and they would just leave it for him. They bought him the best fruits, rare fruits and vegetables that people love to eat. And this is how they basically worshiped him on a regular basis. Now, he becomes older and he dies. And people talk about him, and he becomes this thing of legend. And after a while, the legend of him grows and grows, and eventually there's a book written about him. And the book is called The Book of the Dead. Now, I read The Book of the Dead. They had a copy in the library, and you can usually find it in the library. They're getting harder to find. But the city I grew up in, we had this big library, a lot of old books in it. And I was amazed myself that I could find so many of these books on all the subjects that I had been researching all this time. And of course, they're all in the section marked fiction. And in this little area I was researching all these books, it was like nobody dusted back there. The floor was dusty. It was like an old movie, man. I'd go grab the book and I'd blow it and blow the dust off of it first. You open up the pages, it's like nobody's opened up these books in years. The pages are crisp, almost like the book is brand new. It's just everything's just super dusty. The floor was dusty back there. And I was wondering, like, y'all don't come back here and clean? So I'm in, and the area was a round shaped area. It was, instead of, when you go to the library, a lot of this stuff is on bookshelves, it's all square, it's all blocked off. This area was different. And nobody really entered that area. Like, I could see my footprints from where I'm walking through it because the floor was so dusty. And I had to double check. Because I did it on Saturdays, so I would look out and see the lady cleaning, dusting shelves and whatnot. And it was like nobody went back here to dust. It amazed me. It really amazed me. I felt like I was in one of those old movies, looking this stuff up. Anyway, I read The Book of the Dead. I wasn't allowed to take it out of the library. They had a reading room where you could sit in there and read these books. Like I said, I used to speed read. And be honest with you, when I came to The Book of the Dead, a lot of the names and of people and places, it's hard for me to pronounce. It was hard for me to speed read through it. I didn't quite understand, so I had to take my time with it and read through it. Now, I read the Bible before several times, and the Book of the Dead, there's parts of the Book of the Dead that read exactly like the Bible, word for word. And the only thing that's different is the name of the people and the places. The Bible we read now, the King James Version, there was parts of it that were exactly like the Book of the Dead. Now, there's parts of the Book of the Dead and parts of the Bible that have nothing to do with each other. Completely different. And the Book of the Dead is a much longer book. It's a much bigger book. So there were also parts of the Book of the Dead that were similar to the Bible, meaning the stories were real similar. Instead of a burning bush, it might have been a rock that was speaking. That's what I mean by similar. The stories sort of line up, except things are changed a little bit. Maybe it wasn't a cart with donkeys or asses that was being pulled. It might have been pulled by oxen. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Those were the differences. Now, I could clearly tell that the stories in the Bible were taken from this Book of the Dead, but not everything. And like I said, there were a lot of religious books that had been written. Well, before the religious books, there were these books of spirituality like the Book of the Dead. And let me give you an example of what I mean by spirituality. The 42 laws of Ahmad. This one says the 42 ideals of Ahmad. But I just want to see if I can blow this up so you can see it a little bit better. And these are the 42 laws of Ma'at. I have not committed sin. I have not committed robbery with violence, so on and so forth. I have not stolen. I have not slain men or women. I have not stolen food. I have not swindled offerings. I have not stolen from God, goddess, God, or the goddess. You see that? Because during this time, when this book was written, we worship. I want to say we worship a goddess during this time. We definitely worship a goddess before this time, and not a god. The God part came later. This is the whole matriarchal society switching over to the patriarchal society. Just like they did with Hathor, the cow goddess, and it became Hathor, the bull god. That's how they switched it over. Same deity, they just all of a sudden they just made it a man now. So you have God and goddess. I have not told lies. I have not carried away food. These are like affirmations you can say about yourself and your life in order to reach a higher spirituality. These are the things that you did not want to do. There was no you're going to hell if you do this, or the devil's going to torture you for the rest of your life if you do this. That's the difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality is about you understanding and living in one and loving everybody around you without somebody making you do it. Now, when it comes to the 10 Commandments, it's a lot different. Let's pick one out. And you shall not have no other gods before me. You shall not make idols. All of this is under the threat of hell and the devil. You see what I mean? You shall not do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Whereas the 42 laws of Ma'at was, can you say this about yourself? Ain't nobody making you do it. It's you wanting to reach a higher spirituality, a higher vibration, as we like to call it. So that was one of the purposes of the Bible, making you do stuff. Shall not do this, or else you're going to hell, or else you're going to burn forever in fire and brimstone and all this other stuff. It's in a way to scare you into making you do what they want you to do. So after a while, they write this Book of the Dead about Horus. That's who it was written about, was Horus. And parts of it get converted over into the Bible, made into Christianity. And eventually, they're worshiping Serapis with this cup on his head. Now, the Great Library in Alexandria would have been where these spiritual books would have been stored. And what people did was, these spiritual leaders, supposedly spiritual leaders, they say religious leaders a lot of times, came from other lands to the library in Alexandria to take knowledge from it. And what they were doing was making up their own doctrine. They're all making it up from these same books, except they're forming it in their own way, in their own fashion. And what Constantine wanted to do was get everybody on the same page. Now you're not calling God's son Serapis anymore. Now you're gonna call him Jesus. And that's what the council was about, having everybody on the same page. Now, this council was in Egypt, yet it was controlled by the Greeks. And the Greeks were what? They were Catholic. Christianity that we have now came from Catholicism, which is why people go around trying to explain it. Catholicism is the mother of Christianity. And Christians want to be like, no, Christianity ain't got nothing to do with Catholicism. Except back in the day when they were doing this, 325 AD, the people who worshiped Serapis were called bishops of Christ. Now, a bishop is Catholic, of Catholic culture, right? And Christ is supposed to be Jesus, right? Except the people they had worshiping Serapis, when they made this council, they were calling them bishops of Christ. You understand? Christ comes before Jesus because it's a title. So eventually you get to these councils where they take out certain books in the council because they don't want us to read it. See, the Bible is sort of chopped and screwed in itself that we have today. Everybody thinks because they know about the slave Bible from back then, oh, they gave us the whole version now. And it's real easy to see that we don't have the whole version. From the very beginning, God created Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve have two sons. The two sons marry two women. Where these women come from? You see what I mean? Now, if you read the Bible, you'll see that they came from the land of Nod. Now, there's a whole nother land that ain't been talked about with all these people there that Cain and Abel got their wives from. It's missing parts of the Bible. And this is the part about them taking these different books out of the Bible. Some people may know about Lilith. Excuse me, a little tongue-tied there. Lilith being the first wife of Adam. And they had to get rid of her in the version they created because Lilith was not, she was strong. She was not under Adam's wing. She had her own mind and she did her own thing if she felt Adam was wrong. Now, I haven't read the book of Lilith in completion. I actually think there are like 3 different books of the book of Lilith. One in particular, I went over and it talked about her being something like a witch, except greater than a witch. And this is where we get the vampires and werewolves from. Like she supposedly created vampires and werewolves. So like even when you watch, oh man, I'm trying to think of the movie. There's a series of these movies where and I'm not talking about what Daylight or Daybreak. That's like a soft version, like a love story or whatever. But in the end, like most of them, it always contains a love story somewhere in it. The 2 main characters fall in love. And it's usually a werewolf and a vampire. And I can't think of the name of the movie right now, but if you watch these vampire movies and these werewolf movies, there's always some female called Elizabeth, Lily. They're all different names for Lilith. You see what I'm saying? Queen Elizabeth. All different names for Lilith. And even with Christianity, you are taught to drink blood and eat flesh. That's satanic. You see what I'm saying? And everybody even though it's symbolic, you're doing the ceremony. You're portraying that energy. If I was to come up to you on the street and with a cup of blood and say, let's drink this blood, Even though it wasn't really blood, you think I was crazy. You think something was wrong with me. I'm not drinking that, but we'll do that every Sunday in church. If you had a play at an elementary school and they were symbolically drinking blood or eating flesh in the play in the name of Jesus, y'all would enjoy that. People would enjoy it. They'd applaud it. Great job. If it's not in the name of Jesus, people would be upset. They want teachers' jobs. They get the school shut down. What's wrong with y'all having our children out here doing this? So we do this every Sunday with them. Every Sunday. I used to wonder why we sitting here doing this. Like it didn't even make any sense. Why would you want to drink blood and eat flesh? And they teach you that, oh, it's to save your soul. It's good for you to personify that energy of Jesus. It's a good thing. So when they do it in the vampire movies, it's like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing that. But we do this every Sunday at church. It's all based on our perception of all of this stuff. All of this stuff. So when it comes to the Bible, they've written many versions of it. And they've taken books out and they word it in a way that people will follow it. And there's so many people that follow it and don't even care where that Bible comes from. It's the truth because everybody does it. I was talking to one guy and he got it. He was like, the 5 monkeys. Yes, the 5 monkeys. The 5 monkeys with the ladder and the bananas up there, and they get hit with the water hose every time somebody climbs the ladder, till eventually you change out all the monkeys and they just know not to climb the ladder. They never been hit with the water before. You see what I'm saying? They never been hit with the water, except they know that if you climb the ladder, we're supposed to beat them up. We're supposed to keep them off that ladder. This is the 5 monkeys. The same concept. The Panari Indian. You can look them up. The Panari Indian, I want to say it was a South American tribe, and Catholic missionaries had gone down there to do missionary work. And they see the people, and the people are half naked, having sex, children running around all over the place, not believing in God or believing in some higher power, believing in themselves. Like, oh no, we got to save these people. These people are wrong. Like, yeah, we got to save their soul. So they try to introduce the Bible to them, except the Panari Indian doesn't have a word for sin or guilt. So when they were trying to push that version of the Bible on them, it didn't work. So the missionaries go back to the Catholic Church and say, oh, it's not working. What we're going to do? The Catholic Church changes the version of the Bible they're going to give to the Panari Indian. And their version of the Bible that they give in the Panari Indian, the Panari are the ones that crucify Jesus. And even with that, they try to push this story on them. It still wasn't working. Except the story goes that the Panari Indian was the one crucified Jesus. And if they don't do what the Bible says, then God is going to come back. There is no devil. There is no hell in their version. God is going to come back and burn them up. Burn down the villages. So after it wouldn't take with the Panari Indian, after changing the story, what did the missionaries set out to do? They started burning down the forest. They started burning down their homes. Now the Panari Indian, whether or not you believe in it or not, believe in this story or not, now you know that if you don't convert, they're going to keep burning stuff down. They're going to keep burning down the trees, burning down your food sources, burning down your homes. So what do? They convert. Whether they believe in it or not, they know if they convert, the fires will stop. So they start converting. And here's the thing where you get the 5 monkeys again. After a couple generations have passed, people are just doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. It's just what you're supposed to do to keep the fires from burning in the forest. You see what I'm saying? Everybody, now you're following the book, you're obeying the laws in the book, and nobody's holding a gun to your head anymore. Nobody's burning down your forest anymore, and y'all are making each other follow the rules. It's the same thing with the version we got now. The Bible is called the greatest story ever told. It's not the greatest history book. It's not the greatest collection of facts of history. And as a matter of fact, you can't find one person in that Bible, you can't find none of their grave sites. They say, oh, well, Jesus got up from the grave and he left. Well, what about the rest of them? What about the 12 apostles, 12 disciples? What about them? What about all the other people in that book? Where are their grave sites at? You see what I'm saying? It's a story to get you to believe something so you'll follow all the orders and be scared of God without anybody actually making you do anything. And so even the King James version that we got, people don't care to know who King James was. I wanted to know who wrote this book. What type of person was King James for him to write this book? Excuse me. You know, because for me growing up, I used to always hear the preacher used to always recite scriptures in the book about how the woman is supposed to stay silent. She's not supposed to do anything in the church. She's not supposed to be preaching or anything like that. And now the whole system has changed. The woman is the cause of the downfall by getting Adam to eat the apple. Like everything is her fault. Well, King James was a homosexual. He was a homosexual that hated women. And him and his lover, Lord Buckingham, which Buckingham Palace is named after, him and his lover threw his mother out of a window. This is where you get the iconic scenes in like Game of Thrones. I remember first time I watched Braveheart, I was like, oh man. It blew my mind because I was like, that's the scene. They flipped it up a little bit. They switched it up a little bit. And that was the king throwing the gay lover's son his son's gay lover out the window. You see what I'm saying? His son was gay. He had his little lover. He wasn't going to have any children because he didn't like women. So now it was the king throwing his son's gay lover out the window instead of them two throwing the mother out of the window. It's the same concept though. When they run this over and over in all these movies, they do it a lot. And every time I see it, that's all I think about. I was like, that whole scene, how they gonna flip the script on it this time? How they gonna change it up this time? It's the same thing. That's why in the King James version of the Bible, the woman is desecrated. That's why. Pushing us more towards this patriarchal society instead of a matriarchal society. See, back then, lineage was always lineage always went by who the mother was, because you know for sure that was that woman's child. You see what I'm saying? Today we got DNA tests or whatnot. You don't know who the father is. Like you're not 100% like, so we take a DNA test to make sure it is the father's child. But you know that's the mother's child. You know it because she had the baby. You see what I'm saying? And in this patriarchal society, to follow the lineage, now we got to do the DNA test. Now we got to say, is this really his son? Is this really his daughter? And that's us switching over from where women had more control, more influence on society than they do today. It's switching back, except it's switching back in a way that a woman now is playing the role of a man. You see what I mean? They're not, it's not a feminine aspect. They act more like a man to get the job done. And they do it in the movies all the time. Now all of a sudden, the woman is the one that's protecting everybody, beats up the bad guy, got the weapons. Somehow she got the weapons and killed everybody. And This is all due to the change in these religious doctrines that we have. And this is why people say, well, Christianity actually started in Africa or in Egypt. Excuse me. The version we had, it really didn't. We were invaded time after time, and these other religions were forced upon us, just like with Serapis. Before Serapis, there was another invasion. And even dealing with Arius was saying that Jesus was made and not begotten. There's something they're making up. He even went so far as to say, I remember a time when even Serapis was not the one that we were worshiping. Serapis was made up, and they actually was worshiping a statue of him. This is why you get all these images with the cup on the head, with the halo behind their head, and this really the sun. And everybody, a lot of people like S-U-N, sun worship, and not S-O-N. It's worshiping the sun. That's what this is. And really what it, like I said, it personifies your crown chakra, the energy you have in you. And they don't want you to know about the energy you have in you. They want you to give away your power to another being, to another entity. What do I mean? I've talked to a lot of people about this before, but like when I was young, no matter where I was on Saturday night, where I woke up at on Sunday morning, I knew it was Sunday morning. I didn't have to turn on the TV. I didn't have to turn on the radio, read the paper, or see what the date was. I knew it was Sunday morning because I could feel the energy as soon as I woke up. It just feels like a Sunday. And why is that? Because Saturday night, we all went to sleep, all thinking about going to church in the morning. We put that energy out there the entire time. That whole night we're sleeping, and when we wake up, that energy just sort of permeates through everywhere. You can ride around and you can feel it. You go into different places, you can tell it. Like everybody's attitude is different. And then when it comes to Monday morning, everything is right back to normal, right back to the way it was before. It's the same thing with Christmas and Thanksgiving, these other holidays. We focus our energy on this thing and we put this energy out there. And that's what they want us to focus on, not knowing that when we focus this energy and we put it out there, we change our environment. And the fact that you can feel it's Sunday morning when you wake up is an example of how we change our environment with the energy we put out. Our good thoughts and negative thoughts all help shape the world we're in right now. This is a whole other aspect of the Bible that goes along with why they did it, why they using the Bible, why would they make up such a book, why would they put this book together and leave out different parts of it. They don't want you to really know about the technology of this place, just like they don't want you to know that the Egyptians back then had electricity. So we become slaves on a spiritual level and on a physical level because we work to get to pay for this energy. See, I'm a country boy, so in the country, people could build their own house. You could dig a hole in the ground and have your own water system, your own water source. You could grow your own food. We went fishing. People go hunting. Sort of self-sustained out there. The only thing you're missing is electricity to turn all the devices on, to turn on the lights. And if we understood that energy is all around us and you can make your own generator, you can make your own energy system, then we wouldn't need these people in charge. You see what I'm saying? We wouldn't be sitting here paying for it. Except now, once again, it's like the 5 monkeys. It's just what everybody does. I remember talking to people about, I want to make my own generator. And people will be like, well, well, you know you can buy one of them at the store. I was like, yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about their own perpetual energy generator run off of magnets or some type of perpetual motion using water or wind. Normally it's water. If you got a cycling, and a lot of people do these videos on showing you how you can do it for yourself. Now, a lot of them won't make a lot of energy, except we don't need a lot of energy. We only need the energy to turn on the lights and power certain things in your home. Really, we have so much stuff now in this energy grid that we're on that people think we need a lot of energy. We use a lot of energy. We could all create this for ourselves. Hence the purpose of the Bible. Excuse me. Hence the purpose of the Bible, to keep you subservient, obedient, ignorant of the knowledge of this place, the way they teach it. Just like the dude said in the book of Eli, if they actually taught you that free energy is around using the Bible, you look at it different. You'd approach the situation different. But like, they tell you that you need to rely on God at all times. Well, I'm showing you who God is. God is this cup on your head. God is this energy source right here that's in you. So when Jesus said, my cup runneth over, it was his energy spilling out. Like he is at his highest level, and that energy is spilling out and permeates all around him, just like on Sunday when we're waking up. It permeates all around them, and it's infectious. It infects the people around them. They feel that energy. And for some people, they'll feel that energy and they'll want to get away from it because they're operating on a different vibration. Sometimes it's a lower vibration. I prefer to use the word different because everybody is not on a lower vibration. Even these people in charge, excuse me, they're operating on a high vibrational level, except it's different from ours. Because there's two types of beings here. There is the human, the natural human, and then there's mankind. All this black and white stuff, they made all that stuff up to divide us. This game is divide and conquer. Man against woman, young against old, black against white, American against Chinese, you name it. Fighting, arguing about what football team is the best when the whole game has been rigged already. Arguing what baseball team is the best, what basketball team is the best. Everything here is divide and conquer. It's divide and conquer so we never come on to the same understanding of what this place is. And even with things like 9/11, one person will be like, oh, they did it for this reason, for the money, or for the land or whatever else. Going to war with Afghanistan, all this other stuff. And we each think that we're right about what we're saying, but that reason is wrong. You know what I'm saying? And it never crosses our mind that they did it for all those reasons. Everything is divide and conquer here. It's like even when they had the spy balloon they shot down, it ended up being like 4 or 5 objects they ended up shooting down during that time frame. And you had a general come up, and I can't remember if it was a general, but it was a high-ranking military officer having a press conference saying about one of the objects that it was definitely not a balloon. I can't tell you what it is. We don't really know what but it definitely wasn't a balloon. And then a few days later, you got a White House press official saying, well, it was probably a balloon. You get to choose what you want to believe. You see what I'm saying? They say both terms. So we can sit here and argue about what it is. Oh, it was aliens. It was this. Ain't no aliens, man. We the aliens. We making the spacecraft or whatnot, the starships. I think I've showed you that before. We doing that. Yeah, I just do it over this one. I'm trying to remember, what is it? TR3B. There you go. The triangle spacecraft. People were saying you had that guy that's, oh man, connected with Bob Lazar. George, I want to say his name is George Knox and Jeremy Cormel or whatever. The little thing with 3 lights on it, that's this. That's this. They making it. You ever notice that the spy planes, they're all triangles? They're all triangles. They've been making spacecraft, flying saucers since like the 50s, the 60s. Let's see if I can. U.S. Air Force flying saucers. Look, they've been doing this for years. They've been doing this for years. They make 3 different types. They make this circle joint right here. They make triangles, and they make a square one. And they're all symbolic because it's all alchemy, triangles, circles, and squares. Somebody had broke down alchemy to me when I was little one time, man, because they noticed that I hated wearing them church clothes. Even today, I call it a monkey suit. When they dress a monkey up, what they do? They put regular clothes on them. They put them in a little suit or something, put them in a little tuxedo or something. Monkey suit. I hated wearing them. And this person saw that I did dislike that. I took my clothes off as soon as I got home and whatnot, and they sat me down one day and was explaining like the triangles are the collars of the shirt, the circles are the buttons on the shirt, and the squares are the pockets that's on there. And I didn't know nothing about alchemy, but they were explaining like this is how they use it. Because when you put on those clothes, those uniforms and things, you feel different when you put them on. You carry yourself a little different. See, the natural human, like, we don't dress like that. The natural human, all this spraying of heavy metals in the air and in the water and that's bad for us. Except here's the thing. The human body can adjust to anything. It can adapt to anything out there. Too much of it at once, it'll kill us. But over time, little bit by little bit, your body just adapts to it in all these different environments and situations. Now, like I said, the heavy metals and whatnot, to the natural human, that's a bad thing, except we'll adapt to it. Now, it's perfect if it was a machine. These heavy metal parts in the air and in the water and in the food, it's great for a machine. And what are we in this age of machinery, where the robots are taking over? If you remember the Seattle game where they had the robots, see if I can pull that up. Football game with robots. There we go. They had the Seattle football game and they had all these robots that they paraded out there. Now, take a good look at these robots now. Hold up, let me go back. I ain't clicking on none of this stuff. I gotta sign up and do this. Take a good look at these robots. Now, if they did not have this part of the robot, exposed, how many people you think would have noticed that they was robots? Look at this guy back here, man. Like, people just came out to watch the football game. If they didn't have this part of it exposed, how many people you think would have thought this was robots? There's people that watched it and was like, oh no, that's somebody in the suit. Just because they had this part on here. They look like us, they walk like us, they talk like us. Except they're not like us. This is the movie They Live. Back in the day, I used to hate Roddy Piper, man. Watching wrestling back then. I'll be honest with you, I thought a lot of stuff they did was pretty racist, pretty blatantly racist. Some of the different groups of wrestlers they had out there, some of the stuff they said, and I swear a couple times they let the N-word slide out. So when Roddy Piper made that movie They Live, I was like, oh, he became one of my heroes. I was like, he gets it. It was like Neo in the Matrix, watching Keanu Reeves. The first time I saw that, I knew that was us. I knew that was us. All the stuff I've been seeing, the stuff I've been learning, that's us. We in a simulation. And that is what that biblical picture, I think I took it down, but that's what that biblical picture is showing, that we're in a simulation. So when it comes to the creation of the Bible and where it comes from, this is why. It's all in an attempt to hide ancient technology about what this place really is and how it was used. We would have been using a lot of technology back then, except we would have used it in a way that was more harmonious with our environment. We wouldn't have manipulated our environment so much. We would have allowed the natural course of things to happen instead of making things that would destroy or change our environment. You see what I'm saying? We wouldn't have been making electronics that put off so much electronic radiation, something that was harmful. We wouldn't have made machines that gave you diseases. We would have made things that healed you, like the healing box. If you've ever heard of that, see if I can pull that up real quick. Healing box. And I'll say this, for anybody just searching on the internet for some stuff today, it's like digging through looking for a needle in a haystack. Back when I was doing my research, I had books. I had to do a decimal system. I could go pick out the book myself. I could find the book, pick it out myself, come up with my own topic I wanted to research, and find somebody that's wrote books on those topics. Not only would I do that, I could look and research that person, where you went to school at. Why come you're not more famous than you are now? Why are you considered low on the list of authorities, or why are you considered high on the list of authorities? Who's paying you? Who paid you then? Who's paying you now? Why come ain't nobody paying you now and they're still using your work now though? Just different things, man. I was able to do that on my own. So this whole new internet search thing, oh, man. And in 2019, January 2019, they put out a new algorithm, and some of y'all might have noticed it because in January, was it January? Maybe it was in February when it happened. But your phones reset. I know they put out the new algorithm in January, and I could see it slowly. There was things I was searching up, had been searching for years, and all of a sudden I couldn't find it. I remember back then, say like 2013, 2014, if you search something on the internet, it would give you 10,000 search results. None of them would repeat. Now when you look stuff up, you get a lot of the same information over and over and over again. Let me see. Now, well, yeah, they're giving you stones and herbs and whatnot, but people have actually made healing box. I wish I knew the names. I think Tesla had one, healing box. Tesla. Let me see if this works. Tesla's healing devices. Let's see if we can go to images. Different devices that were made by different people. And you're getting Tesla cars, and that's a whole nother issue. That's Elon Musk coming out with Tesla. So now when you look up Tesla, this is what you get. A lot of Tesla stuff. But I'm talking about Nikola Tesla. He actually made a healing box. Him, along with some other folks throughout history, have made different types of healing boxes because everything here is based on frequency and vibration. And that's what the Bible is sort of explaining in a metaphorical way. Except we read it word for word and we thinking, oh, he really walked on water because it was the power of God. He really went to heaven. No, he went to a different dimension and came back and brought somebody with him. And they doing this now. If you watch the skies at night, sometimes you might see it. I watched the sky a lot growing up and pretty much most of my life, especially when I'm outside at night looking at the stars. I could always pick out the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, and Orion's Belt. Then you got the whole constellation of Orion. And there are 3 constellations that are together. One, the Big Dipper's on one side, Little Dipper's on the other side, and Orion will be in the middle. And so I've seen shooting stars for years, and I always wondered why the stars always go down. If you were in space, why are they not going sideways or going up? It's always going down like it's falling at an angle or something. Why? If we're in space, it should be going in all different types of directions, except they don't. And probably since 2022, a lot of things happened in 2022. See, 2020 was a whole reset. A lot of technology was coming out, and they preparing us forward. And that's, I don't want to go into the whole lockdown thing, but like, yeah, all the work they've been doing, they had to rebuild this and all this foundational work they were doing in different places. It's got a lot to do with it. The 5G towers going up, and that's something else they don't really want you to talk about. That's hitting too much on the truth. That's why they shut it down. Like, who you can't talk about now? The J word. You can't talk about them people. Even if what you're saying about them is true, you're not supposed to talk about them. Not at all. But like, if you watch the sky sometimes, if you ever seen, I'm always going to Dragon Ball Z. If you ever seen Dragon Ball Z and seen the capsule corpse ships, they're these little round balls. And when they fly through the air, they leave this tail behind them. They like glowing and they leave this tail behind them. Well, they got these, I guess they call them shooting stars now. That's what they look like. And they're going across the sky. Except they never hit anything, they never land, they just sort of disappear. And Concord, North Carolina, a few years back, I forget what, 2019, I think, they had like they called it a fireball in the sky. They shot through this neighborhood, except it never landed anywhere. A lot of people saw it. It was on video. It was on the news. People talked about it. I saw it from my vantage point, from where I was at. I could see it, and it just looked like an explosion, and this little blue thing dropped down to the ground. Well, they never come up and found the impact site, no meteor out there or nothing. Where'd it go? So when you watch these things, if you ever see them, they streak across the sky real fast. It's just a couple seconds, and they start getting really bright, and they just disappear. They just dissipate. I think they're going into different dimensions. I think they've already been on this technology and been using it, and now it's more prevalent. Now it's easier for them to use. They're putting it into practice more and more. I've been watching the skies for a while. I done seen some stuff up there. I done seen some stuff. And I get to talking about it with something that's couldn't be. But for the people that know, that are curious, their mind is open, they can get it. They understand it. The people with the closed minds, that people that believe the Bible is a real book of history, people like that, their mind is so focused on it, and it's always been that way, they can't see it not being real. You know, they've had things happen in their lives and they credit it to this outside deity, not understanding that it's really you and the people around you that's creating this. Put it like this: anything you've ever wanted to do, you really wanted to do it. You just went and did it. And it worked out for you. You didn't second guess yourself. You didn't listen to any of the critics around you talking about you can't do that, that's impossible, and blah, blah. You just did it. And somehow it works out for you. That's the power we have. When you really focus your mind on something, and I mean, it can't be just a want, you past and fleeting thought. It'll be something when you go to sleep at night, you're thinking about it. When you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about it. During the day, from time to time, it crosses your mind. And you make steps towards that thing, towards that goal. Eventually, it's going to all work out for you. And that's just sort of the way it works. And if you want to talk about power of God, that's your God power, really. Because we work in a relationship with this place. This place is energy. Who you are is actually energy. Who you see in the mirror is not you. You are that bright spot that they show you for the pineal gland. You are that energy. This is why when they cut the brain open after somebody's passed, there's nothing there. It's an empty chamber, which is called the seat of God, the throne of God, or the seat of the soul. And they give us the religious books and religion so we don't understand that. So we never dig into that. Here we go with the cookies again. I don't want cookies. And I wish they showed Tesla's healing box. This is the Tesla Tower. This is what he was using to make Wi-Fi electricity. This is what everybody's always talking about. His laboratory, his school of thought. Looks sort of like a mushroom, right? Like in the Mario video game. But this is the Tesla Tower, where he was trying to give people energy in this place for free. You wouldn't have to plug up the device. You just turn it on. This is something our ancestors would have been using. They wouldn't have had a bunch of telephone poles and wires running around. They would have had something like this producing this energy that is not harmful to us. The stuff we're using now, that's harmful. You can kill yourself with that stuff. That's why it's got to be coated in wires and be ran the right way. And, excuse me, you got to go to school to learn about the fuses and all this other stuff. This, you would have been able to just, with this device, you would have just been able to turn on your PlayStation. The lights would have just came on when you flipped the switch. You see what I'm saying? If you had it wired that way for that. Or the light would have just been on all the time if you just had a light bulb. This is the knowledge like this is what the Bible is hiding. That's one of the reasons for making it. Making us these obedient servants. That's another reason. So we always follow rules. Obedient, subservient, ignorant of the real knowledge. Oh, man. And I'm going to circle back because it's like 4 different things it does to us. And I used to recite this all the time, man. And right now I'm having a brain lock on what all the terms are. But like, yeah, this is what the Bible is doing to us. This is why they created it. Now, like I said, Ptolemy Soter was who Alexander the Greek had put in charge of Egypt. And when you look up the term soteriology, it is the doctrine of salvation. Blow that up so you can see it. You see that? The doctrine of salvation. Why is it not Jesus or Christianity? Because at the time that he took over, this was who was supposed to be our Jesus. Ptolemy Soter, which is why you have the man-made statue of Serapis with the cup on his head. You see what I'm saying? Signifying, showing you the energy flowing like I was telling you before. Now, this was in Egypt. You can clearly tell, what does he look like? He looks like a Greek. He doesn't look like the Egyptians. Now, this is a depiction of him done in Egyptian style with all the statues. All the early statues were like this. Though that's Ptolemy Soter with the cup on his head. And from there, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump to give you Jesus. Let me see. Now, before, when I would look up Ptolemy Soter, you would get images of Jesus straight out. You wouldn't even have to look it up. They'd be right there next to him. So there you go with the sun around him, the halo, the bright spot around him. And you would get these images with Jesus with the cup on his head. It's the crown of thorns. Just like Serapis. As a matter of fact, where was I? One image in particular, I showed it to you before. See if I can find it again. Oh no, I think I gotta look up Serapis. This image right here, it literally had that as Jesus. It was calling it Jesus. And this was on the internet, looking it up on the internet, but like they were literally calling this image right here Jesus. Because that's what they turned it into. Eventually, this became known as Jesus. They didn't get rid of the statue right away because those statues were there. It's just that they had to start calling it Jesus at that point. After Constantine made a decree at the Nicene Council that he was begotten and not made. And in the Nicene Creed, which I was looking for before, I pulled it up and I cannot find it. I don't know where I put that thing here. There we go. The Nicene Creed, if you read here, we believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, eternally begotten of the Father, God from God, light from light, true God, begotten, not made. Why you got to keep saying that? Because all the people was worshiping this statue that was man-made, that it was called a Serapis. You see what I'm saying? They were worshiping this statue called Serapis, and they just changed it over, telling people it wasn't man-made. That was really Jesus. A depiction of Jesus, and it was the Son of God coming from that divine birth. And if you watch the video with Ray Hagen on my channel, he goes deeper into that. And he talks about Arius and another guy as well. Like even 200 years after this, after Arius was killed, there was another guy that had done the research and figured out, hold up, this is not who we used to worship. They made this one up. And he was a high-ranking official, bishop, I think, with the church. And he was well respected. And what happened to him? He got banished and he got killed. Same thing happened again. But yeah, the biblical map of the earth. Because I never did that one, so we'll go over there. Pull this up later. Because I've been saying it's all about the symbols, like, and how they're using. I wanted to do this when Cat Williams did his show, but like this, I kept looking at this chain, this medallion here. It's a compass. It's an old symbol that he took and made his own little version of it, but it's an old symbol. It's the wheel on those old boats. You know, the wheel you spin around? That's what that is. Plus there's a compass marked on here, and look what it says, woke folk. It's all to pull you in. He one of them. He's one of them. But yeah, this biblical map of the earth, that's literally what they're showing you. That's literally what the author of this map is really showing you. How we are projected from the center. I always wondered why he drew these lines. And you can see the ice ring all the way around. Just like everybody, all us flat earthers are telling people about. There's video out. I saw a video once, a guy in a helicopter, and it's about 30-minute long video. And he's in a helicopter doing pretty good speed this whole time. And it starts and he's got the camera zoomed in miles. It looks like 100 miles. Like back, he's got the camera zoomed in on this ice wall. And he so slowly brings the camera around and shows you where he's at, and then by the end of the video, he's zooming in again, miles, look like 50, 100 miles. I'm not sure how far he was looking away, but just the ice wall as far as you can see, and the whole time he's flying, he's passing this ice wall that people don't think is really out there, except it's out there. There's plenty of maps about it. I mean, plenty of video on it. You can see it if you want to look. They had coins with Ptolemy Soter on them. This was a real dude. Like I said, he was Alexander the Greek's homeboy. He was a general in Alexander's army, which is why he ended up running the city, being in charge of the city. And once he became in charge, they made that statue of Serapis. He had the Egyptians make the statue of Serapis to worship him. And this became their god. So when Constantine made the decree, he was like, look, we want to consolidate all these different religions that people are making under one umbrella. So now we're going to start calling this dude Jesus. Everybody's going to call him Jesus. So this is where you get the origins of Christianity. This is why people say that it started in Africa, it started in Egypt, And they think it was our religion. It wasn't. This was a religion that was forced upon us again and again until we had a version that we have now. It wasn't. Our original religion wasn't even a religion. It was a spirituality. Remember before we looked at the 42 laws of Ma'at, because we worship the goddess, the queen bee. She has a lot of names. This Hathor, the cow goddess, is when they were changing from female to male deities and became Hathor, the bull god. Thor, the bull god. Same character. See here, the bull god has breasts like a female. The bull goddess. It was the cow goddess that became the bull goddess that became the bull god. To even where you have here, what is this dude doing down here? You see what I'm saying? What is he doing? Now this stuff with P. Diddy and homosexual acts and whatnot, and everybody, oh, you should just come out of the closet. It's all this comes from Egypt and Greek and the Greek Egypt and the Greeks from years ago. All this stuff been going on. If you ever heard of Caligula, who used to have these huge orgies, men and women just doing whatever in these parties. They had a movie, Eyes Wide Shut, with Tom Cruise, where that's what they did at these parties. They went to these masquerade parties, wearing a little mask, and go to the different rooms. It was a bunch of different sexual acts going on in all these different rooms. They talk about this in the Hugh Hefner parties. They was talking about this with the P. Diddy parties. It's all the same. It's all based on this ancient culture. This is what, and these people that have these doppelgangers, people that look like them in the past, and here they are again, looking the same way again. These people repeat. These people go back and forth over and over, and they just been repeating. You know how long it takes to spend $1 trillion? You can spend $3 million a day for like 996 years and still not run out of money. Still have $250,000 left. Not $250,000, like $250 million left. It's not enough to spend $3 million a year for that next year, but you have money still left over 1,000 years. You can't take it with you. So what you want to do? You stay here. Now I'm just ranting. Now I just want to break down the whole where Christianity come from, the Bible we got comes from now, because a lot of people buy into it, and a lot of people say, you know, I met a lot of people that look at it and listen to it, and you know, they understand it. Like, hold up, something is not right. Something's not quite right with this whole thing. They don't know where it came from, but they can tell like the whole mindset that it puts people in. And if you ever pay attention, man, on Sunday, people change. People change on Sunday when they go into church. It's a whole different type of individual at that point. Y'all might be fighting like cats and dogs all week. And then on Sunday it'll get worse. Then when you go to church, y'all play Ozzy and Harriet. Y'all the sweetest couple or whatever. And then as soon as you leave church, you're right back to doing what you're doing. And it's not that the energy of that thing of going to church change you. It's the front that everybody puts up. People are during the rest of the week, it's science and Maddie don't exist and there's no such miracles ain't happening. And then you go to church on Sunday and all of a sudden it's miracles. Everything is a miracle. Everything is a miracle. If somebody actually told you they was listening to a talking snake, you send them to the psych ward. You see what I'm saying? But on Sunday, that makes sense. Snakes was talking. People hear voices in their head sometimes. And I used to think everybody had an inner voice. That inner voice is you. Except a lot of people don't have that inner voice. And they be waiting to hear it. And they go to church to try to hear that inner voice. And when they do finally hear it, they think it's Jesus. They think it's God. It's you. Telling you right and wrong or what not to do. Sometimes it's your ancestors talking to you. You just have to be willing to listen, open-minded to even understand that concept. Otherwise, they'll call you crazy. You might think you crazy. And that's one reason why I'm so thankful for my supporters, all the people that subscribe to the channel, all the people that give me any encouragement. Man, I can't wait to see your next video, man. That video you did last time was good, man. That was something else. It all helps. It helps me know that I'm not alone, first of all. Before, I used to feel like I was alone, like I was always the weirdo, and I just used to keep my mouth shut about a lot of this stuff. Now that I know I'm right and there's so many people out, I see the world differently. Like Ray Hagen, for example. Like, I never knew about Ray Hagen until I started realizing I was right about what I was talking about. And then I started coming in contact or seeing these different people, these different speakers talk about this stuff. So apparently Ray Hagen, he started his research about Christianity, I think in like 94 or 97 or something. I had never heard of him. It was 2017 before I ever heard of Ray Hagen. But then there's people like Dr. Sebi and Dr. Delbert Blair. Like, I didn't know who he was. I just remember hearing his voice. He's got a very distinctive voice. So I learned a lot from him, just like on some science stuff back in the day. Like, especially with the microwaves and how they were used in war and all this other stuff. I learned a lot from him. I couldn't have told you who he was. I watched a lot of alternative stuff. Like, I watched a lot of PBS, National Geographic, Discovery Channel, science stuff. And I would hear these guys. And I'm just real thankful for fast forwarding to today and all these people around me. I started out with just a couple people I was talking to about this. Now it's so many more people I'm talking to about this. And then, once again, you have some little troll that was like on the last video that want to come and, bring you down. Like, oh man, it is sort of sad though that there's people out there like that would actually consider what happened with Sonya Massey to be okay. It's all right that it went that way because she did this or she did that. That lady didn't do anything that should have had her life taken for her. She didn't do anything that prompted them to even pull their guns on her. But because people go to church, claim to be right with God and all this other stuff, they have this righteous energy about them where nothing I do is wrong. Everything I do is right. Because I'm right with God. That's the whole thing about righteousness. You was right even when you was wrong. No need to apologize. no need to change your behavior in any way, because I know I'm going to heaven because I went to church on Sunday and I paid my tithes and I drank my blood and ate my flesh. You know, I sat and I listened to the preacher and I understood and nodded my head and amen. I sang the songs. I participated in church this and church that. We went to revival. We went all this other. I remember being in church like you could go to church like 4 times a week on a regular basis, twice on Sunday, for different things. I want to say it might have been 5 times. But at least 4 times a week you be going to church. And then, you got, I was brought up in the Church of Christ. So they are heavy into the church. You got the revival, and then you got summer Bible school, summer vacation Bible school for the children and whatnot. And y'all meeting up there at midnight. I always thought that was weird. Church would start at like 9 o'clock or something, and y'all be up there until midnight during the summer, like. But I digress. Yeah, you can just scroll through the pictures and see all these different versions of Hathor the Bull Goddess, because this is who we worshiping before we ever got to a Serapis, before we ever got to a Jesus. And it's a whole host of other deities. And now, some people will be like, well, the story of the Bible, it sounds like they're talking about us. They are. It's all in the effort to get you to think you're something that you're not. That's why we got these Hebrew Israelites running around like the Bible is right. And then there's a whole nother issue where it's a lot of men out here that, because the Bible desecrates the woman and she's supposed to follow and be this and be that, they love what the Bible's saying. They don't want to give that up. You see what I'm saying? The Hebrew Israelites, though, if you look at the etymology of the word Jew, and some of y'all might have heard these jokes when you were coming up like I did about how tight Jews are and all this other stuff. Anyway, the etymology of the word is to lie, cheat, to steal, to drive a hard bargain. And all you got to do is look at our society and who's running it and what they're doing. That's all you got to do. Now, these people didn't have a land, so they traveled around from land to land on the sea. And they would recruit different people from these different lands to ride with them. So they had different cultures riding with them while they went from land to land. And on these ships, you couldn't have a bunch of water because the water ended up getting stagnant. The water that you had, they would brew it and turn it into beer. And even when they got on the land, they brewed in these big witch pots. They made stews and they made the oatmeal and whatnot. And because of the etymology of the word, what the word meant back then, to lie, to cheat, to steal, to drive a hard bargain, people didn't want to be called that. Same thing as today. They don't want you to tell the truth about them. They don't want you to say nothing bad about them, even if it's true. Even if it's true to happen, they don't want you to say nothing bad about it. So calling somebody a Jew back then would have been like a black person being called a nigger in a harsh way by white people today. Been the same thing. It would have been fighting words. You see what I'm saying? So instead, they started saying Hebrews, because they brewed different things. The people on the land wasn't brewing. We was growing food, natural food, eating vegetables, eating fruits from the trees. We might have hunted. That was pretty much our downfall when we were killing the other animals here. The Bible says thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say what. You see what I mean? The 42 laws of Ma'at was more specific, and it gets into all that. I did not do this, I did not do that, and all these things. That's why it's 42 laws. That's one reason why the Book of the Dead is a much bigger book. Like I said, the Bible says thou shalt not kill. It doesn't say what. We just assume it's talking about each other. And even that don't stop us from doing it. We'll go to war with another country and we'll kill thousands. We'll just drop bombs on them. Oh, we can't leave no stone unturned. We'll just kill everybody. We got to get them all out of there. They're doing it right now in Gaza. And people will support that. People will actually support that. They don't see nothing wrong. They'll go to church on Sunday talking about I love everybody and be happy that Israel's doing what it's doing. You see what I'm saying? Kamala Harris, she's telling y'all, yeah, I support Israel. 45 ain't gonna be no different. If that's what they want to do, he's gonna follow his instructions like he did the last time. Everybody thinks he's something different. No, he's not. He's one of them. He's one of them too, and he's playing his role. You got to have a protagonist and an antagonist in every story. It's a heavyweight fight, and you got to hype up both fighters to get everybody going at each other for the fight. To want to pay all the money to come see the fight. Oh, he's gonna do this, and you got the pre-fight interview, and they just talk trash to each other. Man, I can't wait to see. After seeing the interview, oh man, I can't wait to see the fight now. After ESPN done hyped up this football team and that team, oh man, let's see what he's gonna really do. Matter of fact, let's bet on it. I bet they was right. Let's make bets on it. Everything here is divide and conquer. Everything. The way it's set up. And when you stop doing the divide and conquer, then you become a threat to the system of what they're doing. Malcolm X, as long as he was on some hating white people, not wanting to have anything to do with them, he was cool. After he done went to Mecca and saw all these different cultures, white people, brown people, black people, all together under the same umbrella, worshiping side by side, eating side by side, sleeping side by side, no fighting and no beefing, and his philosophy changed, he got to go. You got to go at this point. You're not helping their system out by being congenial with everybody. You see what I'm saying? It's got to be, this whole system is divide and conquer, divide and conquer. And when Martin Luther King was getting on the same page as Malcolm X, oh, he got to go. Now you got to go. You're not wanting to just be nonviolent and just do it, just go along, just be nice with them. Let's integrate in their society and just do this and do whatever it is so we can shop at their stores. Once he started saying, you know what? This was all in. They love to do that. I have a dream speech. If you ever listen to the whole thing, he starts talking about, hold up, this was our land. They've taken our farmland. They've done this and they've done that. They only play the first part. See, if you ever listen to the whole speech, you'll hear him start talking about getting the land back and what they were going to do to get the land back. There was a plan in place where him and Malcolm X, and there was a singer too. I can't remember who it was. But they were going to go to the UN and discuss the situation in America. Them guys had to go. So, and that's basically I ain't gonna say basically, because there's a lot to why they came up with these religions and got everybody on the same page and using our energy against us is basically what they're doing. And they're also siphoning our energy at times. And I used to wonder how. Like, for example, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream after this one. But I've been talking long enough. When you go to a concert, you ever been to a concert and you sat in the front row, or somewhere in the middle in the first 3 rows, and you're just sitting down the whole time listening to this concert. And you might go to dinner or something before or after the concert, but the next day your body is drained. Sometimes you're sore, like somebody been beating on you. You're tired. You're hard to get out of bed. I know people that have a whole routine where they drinking energy drinks or some type of pick me up. Got to have a lot of coffee or something for the next day because they so hurt, or they make sure that there's nothing else they got to do the next day because they're in such bad shape. The body's drained and tired. And that's literally them. Everything here is sound and vibration. It's all based off frequency, sound, frequency and vibration. Everything. So the music plays a big part of it. And that's why these musicians, these artists are such a big deal. Not just the celebrities that on TV, these artists that do the music as well. Because if you look at our society, you see how our society sort of goes along with whatever the music is saying. And you might not even understand everything the music is saying. You're just bobbing to the beat and can't quite catch all the words, except you don't have to. The vibration is already out there. It's already influencing your vibration. The same way those old healing boxes people would make to heal the body, the music is the same way. It can break the body down, put you in a bad mood or a bad state, a low vibrational state. So we are willing to do all this other stuff. It all works together. It all works together. That's why when Kamala Harris comes out and talks to black people, she brings out Meg Thee Stallion and what was his name? Quavo, the rapper Quavo, talking about gun control. And if you ever listen to one of his songs, man, that's all he do is talk about guns. Shooting up this and shooting up that and this, that, the third, man. But now he getting paid to sit there and talk about gun control. So it sounds good. Nobody cares. We just sit there and cheer. Yeah. Oh, man, it's such a sight. Man. And to watch her sit there and be black with black people, and then with everybody else, she's Indian. Puts on a little accent and everything, like that's a whole nother stream though. We'll get to that too, man. We're gonna talk. Look, it's going down. Like we're gonna be talking about a lot of stuff, man. I'm back. We're gonna continue to do this thing, and like I said, once again, thank you for all my subscribers. Thank you to all my supporters. Throw me a like and a share if you think I said anything that helped you out. And we will see you next time. Peace.